going to go ahead and get started. So hello and welcome to Collaboration Reimagined, Partnering for Online Student Success. I'm Missy Arendash, the Associate Director for Programs and Events for the UNLV Division of Philanthropy and Alumni Engagement, and I will be your moderator for this session. As a reminder, please remain muted and have your camera turned off throughout the duration of the session. This will help us ensure the audio and video quality of the meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will be sent to you along with the presentation slides. This one's actually just more of a panel. There won't be any slides related, but there will be some supporting documents that will also come at the conclusion of today's event. If you have any questions, please place them in the chat on the right of your screen, and we will do our best to answer them during the allotted time at the end of the session. Please do not send questions or messages to the presenters or the panelists just because they're going to be, doing a lot, but go ahead and share them with everyone or in a private chat to me. At the end of the summit, please remember to fill out the post-event survey found on the summit website. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Nicole Hudson, who will introduce the rest of the panel for today's session. Nicole?
Thank you, Missy. So my name is Nicole Hudson. I have been with UNLV for just 2 years in May. And my title is Associate Director of Campus Relations for the Office of Online Education. And I work under the Vice Provost of Undergraduate Education, who we're thankful to have joined us today, Laurel Pritchard, and the division accordingly. But last year, as you can imagine, 2020 was, first of all, I said, it just started a year before, and we had a major shift as a result of COVID. And so what it provided in my role was an opportunity to really do what we intended to do for the job, collaborate across campus to make sure we were elevating online education and supporting students. What ended up happening were some amazing new partnerships that weren't already in place. And as a result, I think we really are on the road to continuing making a student impact. So that's the nature of our discussion and panel today, is to share with you some of the individuals who are responsible for some of these great partnership opportunities, but at the end also solicit from you ideas of how we in our institutions, UNLV, but across campuses and institutions of INCHI, can continue to support students by the lessons learned of online learning. So that is the nature of our time today. So without further ado, let's get started. I want to introduce you to some of our panelists today, and I shall allow them to introduce themselves and their title, and then we'll start this discussion. Again, towards the end, we'll have a time to collaborate and talk about some new ideas. So let's start with you, Beth. Mind sharing your name, title, and role?
Sure, I'm Beth Barrie, and I'm the Director of the Office of Online Education, and my role is to support Nicole in doing awesome things. And we also have a staff of about 20, 25 people that help design courses and provide faculty development.
Great. Dr. Orgera?
Thanks, Nicole. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Orgera, and I have the privilege of serving as Associate Vice Provost for Student Success in undergraduate education. So I work very closely with all of our academic advising centers across our colleges and our retention and success initiatives, and working on building out a more robust first-year experience for students at UNLV.
Great. And Dr. Gianoutous. Dr. G.
Thanks so much, Dr. Hudson. Dan Gianoutous. I'm the Senior Associate Dean of the Academic Success Center at UNLV. I'm so great to have all of you here today.
Great. And last, but certainly not least, Dr. Watson.
Good to be with you. Renee Watson, Associate Vice President for Student Life, and I coordinate all the services for the out-of-classroom experiences from housing to student activities involvement and such.
Great. Well, let's kick this off. And as Beth mentioned, she says she supports me, but one of the great pleasures I have is working with Beth. She generates ideas. She's well-read. She continues to stay in the literature. She continues to talk to individuals. She has students in college. We have a high school student So she generates many of the ideas, and I get to play in our sandbox to kind of run with it and let's see where it goes. So it's a great partnership. So let's start and talk a little bit, Beth, if you want to start us off. Prior to COVID, can you share with the group our experience in online education with on campus and in partnerships in particular?
Yeah, I think prior to the pandemic, the focus in the Office of Online Education was on faculty, right? And that was a deliberate decision because at UNLV, the Office of Information Technology actually administers Web Campus. And so we actually don't do the help desk. And I've tried to make sure the unit is not a resource for students because we're not the help desk. And so the decision was we'll support the units that are resources for students, but our main focus is faculty. Our mission is actually to empower faculty to use digital teaching resources. So that was prior to the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, I realized that, hey, we've got all of these great support resources for students all across campus. I didn't have any contacts with any side of the student affairs side of the house, right? Somehow I got connected with Heather Rappaport, who's actually in, I think she, is more in the development side of things. And so she runs the family Facebook page. I'm like, hey, can you send out these online learning tips to the students? Because I didn't want to confuse people with, first of all, we didn't have a social media account because we don't communicate to students. And so trying to get people to push out messages because it became clear in the Office of Online Education, we have a lot of expertise around online teaching and learning. And so coaches, advisors, first year experience faculty, this was all new to them, and they might not necessarily know the best tips around being an online learner. So we started shooting those out via social media. We collaborated on a, before finals, we put together a little, how to prepare for finals when they're online. And that was a good, partnership with the Academic Success Center and a couple other people. That was a really awesome document we got together pretty fast. So that's how the pandemic shifted things, as we started providing and creating more materials for all of the units that support students in the same way that we've been doing that for faculty, right? We became more of a resource for these other units, and in addition to supporting faculty. So we just kind of took a little bit extra on.
Absolutely. So you obviously created my position, which was a new position for the university and the department. But how did the pandemic then change your vision for partnership? My title implies campus relations. So you had a vision for partnership, but how has the pandemic really changed your vision now around partnership?
Yeah, it just became a lot more clear that we need to be supporting those units a little bit more, right? And we need to have someone in our staff that is reaching out to those units to say, hey, did you think about the online student? They're so great at thinking about students in general, but the online student might need to have an advising appointment at 8 p.m. or on the weekends, right? And so we need to be the little voice in their ear saying, hey, have you thought about these things? When Dan and I first created a coach, academic success center coach position that's funded by distance education fees for online students, I said, well, can they work in the evening or on the weekends? And he's like, well, we don't typically do that. But he was like, absolutely, it makes sense. So that's where those partnerships are great. We just mention it, and then everybody works to find a way to take these students' needs into account a little bit better. And the great thing is that it benefits everyone, right? So there's no reason that an online only student would need an 8 o'clock class and maybe an 8 o'clock appointment, but in person people might also need an 8 o'clock appointment. So, kind of a rising tide floats all boats there.
Absolutely. Great. So I'm going to put in the chat for everyone a document that I would like you to open. It will help bring a better context to the next couple questions and the other panelists and some of the actual partnerships that we worked on. So Jeff, you were one of our earlier partners in an event called Starting Strong. So can you just share with the group a little bit more about that event and its purpose?
Of course. So, my background really is, coming from an academic advising lens, but I also come from a student affairs background. So, for all of us in higher ed, these last, year and a half has been really challenging because a lot of our work is, the foundation is relationship building with students and building connections with students. So the fact that we were about to bring in a new cohort of, 4,400 freshmen that no one had actually seen in person, or, got to give a t-shirt to, or touch, or answer their questions. It just left me feeling like, oh, we just need to do something that could, build community, answer questions, make sure students were as ready as they could be to start their college experience in an online space. So, that's kind of really the impetus for starting strong. And, similar to what we would do on campus in person, a welcome event or an early start event. My heart was just kind of aching for missing that. So this was our solution, and we rounded up folks from across the campus because, again, we didn't know what questions the students had about this. I mean, we made some assumptions that they might have questions about technology, or they might have questions about how to learn successfully in an online course, or something about their course schedule, or getting involved. And so we just kind of put out a smorgasbord, more or less, of people and resources that we could hope that students would wonder about and ask about. So that was really what the event was about from my perspective, but I want to let others chime in if there's an opportunity.
Dan, Beth, anything else to add? You participated in that event and from your respective departments.
I think for me, I was just really worried that almost, there's a lot of online learning in high school. They have Canvas here and with CCSG, and so, but it's a lot different taking 5 courses online than taking 1 or having a portion of your course online. So I was just really worried that students wouldn't know how to manage that, and I was grateful that everybody was willing to jump in and do this kind of panel, town hall, answer questions. We gave people a chance, that's where Heather came in. So great. She posted it on the family Facebook page. And as a parent of somebody in college, like, I'm reading her Facebook family page all the time. So I'm like, Heather, if you could do this, I know their parents are going to be like, hey, attend this thing, right? Or attend it themselves, right? Because they want to know how to support their student. And so, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that they know time management is a thing, set up a study space, just some tips, right?
Absolutely. So what was the feedback from the event, Jeff, and how has it shaped kind of your work and department?
Well, I mean, the feedback we received from not only the students and kind of family supporters that attended, I mean, it was just a really engaging conversation. And that's what I think I enjoyed most about it, is that we delivered a little bit of content just to kind of get the ball rolling. But then we fielded the questions that came in beforehand. And then it also led to some other conversations. So I know from the staff that participated in it, everyone was just really energized about it and felt like, they had really filled the gap for this incoming cohort of students who participated by providing it. And then, we even had some folks from the president's office that kind of popped into the session and sent an email afterward and said, that was fantastic. It's so great to see UNLV being proactive and, trying to do the best they could to support the students, with this information. So I think it was really as quickly as we worked to put it together. And, when you do this kind of work, most of us know it's never going to be perfect, but it's gonna be better than doing nothing. And I think we
Absolutely.
learned that, and you know, I'm sure we'll do something like it again, and it'll be just that much better because we've had this opportunity.
That's a great point. And just for the good of the group, many of these ideas really did pop up and were delivered within a matter of weeks. I think we were trying to be responsive to the needs and the sentiments of what was happening on campus. So there wasn't a lot of planning, but I think we put effort and energy where it was needed to meet the student needs. So thank you for sharing that, Jeff. Now, in my role, I manage a team of embedded instructional technologists, and they report to me, but they support the colleges. So they're within the campus community in the colleges, helping faculty to, again, their best practices of online teaching and supporting them with technological needs. So one of the team members is actually on this call here, Ted, as a participant. But Ted was working on a project. We created online learning essentials, which was a synchronous course with some facilitator. I'm sorry, it wasn't completely asynchronous because we had facilitators involved. Dan and his team were the facilitators. And if you can, just share more about that online learning essentials program and its purpose.
Absolutely. Our UNLV Online Learning Essentials, essentially what it was is a 2-week free undergraduate online course. It was strategically designed to start before the semester begins. Okay, the course is fully about personal development. It was self-paced, no required assignments, no letter grades. Online Ed, Ted, Nicole, and the crew, they built an awesome asynchronous format. However, there were live facilitators who were academic success center professionals who, really interacted, engaged, and assisted the students, and that also included providing feedback on the materials that the students submitted and discussion boards, chats, just a great format. I mean, really the course provided tools and space for students, to explore, reflect, self-assess, and really learn how to better engage and navigate the online learning environment. You heard a little bit of the topics so far. These are important topics, creating a study space, organization, time management, virtual communication interaction, exploring and assessing your learning styles, and even the little things like teaching them how to treat your online learning as an individual component as itself, as in, some students it works best to go ahead and get dressed and maybe have some kind of routine that says, okay, now I'm in my online learning space, I'm going to kind of block out some of the distractions around me. A lot of these topics. And then of course, we help connect them to key resources, Web Campus, Google Suite, other type of virtual resources to help them succeed.
Great. Again, our department wasn't specifically in the business of creating content for students. So it was great to be able to get that feedback. I take that back. We do create courses that way, but really for our student population and partnering with this content area, it was newer for us. And so kudos to Ted for his work and the team that did that. But what was the feedback that you received, Dan? You were one of the facilitators as well. So what was the feedback in your personal experience, just hearing from the students?
Absolutely. The students were extremely thankful. I just received great feedback. Some of these students that they self-selected to take on this opportunity. So they were very thankful to be there and to build that self-efficacy. To give you some context, like our first launch was in this past January. Right off the bat, boom, 45 students self-registered, self-selected. Really based on our assessment, our data suggests that the course, it's highly likely to increase the participants' confidence in their online learning skills, abilities, and knowledge. And I really like this one, they're more likely to report that they feel more comfortable in the online learning environment. And so I think that's just really important, just being comfortable in that space, helping with the anxiety. And, there's a lot of external factors of stress in life. So we were really excited to hear that feedback. And once again, a lot of students went in, they used every little component and they did everything. And other students, it was work at their pace. So they self-selected, okay, this is an area of self-improvement. I'll do this module and this module. So it was a really cool grab and go type virtual format.
Great. So why was this important to your work and department?
Great question. You know, it's all about the students, and we have to partner to help them. You know, we know that many students are struggling. They were abruptly introduced to the online learning format. Some of them were even, floundering. And so as educators, we always have to pivot. We have to be academically agile. And so, partnerships like this with online education and the ASC and everyone else who contributed, it just best serves the students when we partner and all use our strengths to contribute.
All right, Renee, you are, as Beth mentioned, she had not had a lot of interaction with student affairs. She admits that. So we were able to meet, introduce, find areas of opportunities. And what we're going to share, what we're going to talk about is something that's still in request phase, but yet we feel it is a game changer for our institution. And so we have some support already out there. So what I'm sharing, and I shared in the slide or in the document, is just a preview. Now it is morphed into something a little different when it finally gets implemented, but the concepts are there. And so Renee, can you just share with the group a little bit more about our student services module project and its purpose?
Yes, so we're looking at creating modules into Web Campus so that they're already embedded into the class materials. So that if students have questions regarding emergency services or financial aid questions, or who to get in contact about, being involved, or services about counseling, it's already there. They just have to go to the module and click it, and they'll find those resources there. They don't have to just wait till the morning to call the office or to email the person that is over that office, but they would have that already in their classrooms. And we just think this will remove the guesswork. I think it really helps us promote and maintain student retention. I think it builds confidence for our faculty because there's lots of information. I mean, our residence halls, we house about 1,700 students. We have over 100 virtual classes for Campus Rec. We have over 400 RSOs. There's a lot of information for faculty to have to house. And so this is just a great way to even build their confidence that when students have these questions, they can say, I know something about that. Let's go to the student resource link and we can look that up. We also have vulnerable communities like our justice impacted students, students with housing insecurity, food insecurity, and they may not feel comfortable sharing that information or that side of their story. And so having that those materials and that information embedded in the Web Campus allows them to kind of begin to figure out how they might want to navigate on their own, find those resources as they build up trust and confidence with their instructor. So I think that it's a great opportunity with endless possibilities that we can use to spark the discussion as well as to keep the information updated. Because I really believe that faculty success is student success and student success is faculty success. And we cannot do this work in silos. And so I'm excited about the opportunity. I also want to say too that I also teach leadership seminar on the College of Education. And I know how it feels when you're reading that paper and you find out that the student is going through so many different challenges, and to be able to say, you know what, I enjoyed reading your paper, you knocked it out of the park, but there's some resources I want to share with you. Check out this link. And so I think it really builds accountability and a great way to really promote student success.
Thank you. And I see Patricia put in the chat, already making the request. Can we add? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We intend to reach out across campus. What we have shared in that document was just a very small sampling. The challenge we found is there's so many resources on campus. There's so many things we could share. It's actually not the right format for it. So we're kind of revisiting the format. I attended a conference about a week and a half ago in Fort Lewis College that had the same concept with tiles. And so that is where we are today, is just figuring out how can we best, deliver the content and make sure that there's something on our canvas to point students to it. So there was a proposal out there. Again, it's not approved yet, but we are lobbying because we know students need it and they've told us they want it. And so I think that's what we're hoping for. So why is this important for your work and department? Just partnering now with online. Again, we're a new partnership. We just met. So tell me, why is this now important for your work and how, what you do, Renee?
Well, students want options, they want different ways to stay connected. UNLV is a very diverse campus with so many different students and their needs. There's not one way to deliver these services. And so I think this really provides us an opportunity to be in the classroom, to be with students and be with faculty all the time, because the resources are there embedded in Web Campus. And like I said, I don't believe that we can do this work in silos. So this makes that academic student affairs integration even stronger.
Absolutely. So this question is for Jeff, Dan, or Renee, if you can share. What challenges did the pandemic bring to light in your unit specifically about the online learner and the online learning environment?
I mean, I would say that, it brought a lot of different looks for some students. It provided them flexibility, and for other students, it provided them uphill challenges. There's a technology gap, there's a resource gap, students coming from low SES backgrounds and other types of challenges. And so, really working hard to meet the students' needs and listening to their needs. And, for a lot of people in a lot of areas, if you had a fully in-person program, you had to create a fully virtual program. So you had to replicate a lot in virtual, and it was a learning curve, but it was exciting. We moved quickly and we pivoted. And so it's going to be interesting, moving back, because a lot of us, we're going to continue to offer, or now bring back the in-person while still providing the virtual format. So doing double the work, but it's also meeting the students where they are and providing, their needs. So it created both opportunity and also, a chance for us to self-reflect and see what we need to do to meet the students' needs.
And I think, from a student affairs perspective, we're so much into connectedness and being, able to reach out to our students. So imagine trying to plan premiere and homecoming and, all of these large scale events in this like online setting, but also not trying to bring about Zoom fatigue and realizing that students have been on, in this setting for all day. I think also make sure that students, had access, so addressing the digital divide and making sure that students had, the software and all of the tools to be able to be successful. But I think also just trying to find very creative ways to engage students, to let them know that they were not alone, to let them know that we were here, even though parts of our campus was closed, and so that was very challenging. But we, rose above that challenge and provided great services. We even learned a lot about how students want to be engaged. Students, like kind of a hybrid model of some, activities in the online environment, but also in person. So we definitely will take some of those lessons as we plan out our student activities for the next academic school year.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add, but I can share an example. I mean, I just think, again, going back to the connection with students, and, we were in the midst of building out our peer mentoring program. So obviously we were doing leadership development and training with a group of upper division students who had accepted a role of being a peer mentor. And they were struggling to connect with their mentees in a virtual space. And, in order to continue to provide support for them, typically we would get them together and do more training and professional development. But again, we had to develop a fully online training and onboarding for the peer mentors that again was in Web Campus, and it was successful. But I think also for the, to Dan's point, I mean, some of these things are going to stick around. We, because of our students' schedules and access to technology and just preferences, we found in advising, a lot of students would prefer to see their advisor in this kind of situation, a Zoom situation rather than having to drive to campus, find a parking space, walk to the person's office, and have that meeting. So we need to kind of find the sweet spot for all of our students. And I think, to everyone's point, the way we've done that is to not do either or, but do both and, right? We've got to think of the in-person and we've got to think of the virtual. And again, how do you make these spaces engaging? I think that will continue to be a challenge. As much as I love this setting, I was chatting with a colleague this morning and said, I can't wait till we're in-person conferences again. I mean, something about conferences and getting around a table and doing tabletop exercises. I mean, there's no replacement. So it does put a strain on our technology, but I mean, we're all bright people and we can do hard things. So we have to continue to, put ourselves in the spaces of our students because we're right there with them.
Absolutely. Jeff, I realized this week I miss Post-its. I miss putting Post-its to brainstorm. I miss Post-its over a year, so.
I still use them.
Awesome. So my last question to each of you, and then we're going to open it up for some discussion. On the document that I put again in the chat, the 4th page has idea generation. Again, we have many campuses, many units, many institutions. So if you have other ideas, we do want to hear from you. On page 4 of the document. You can start listing them, but we'll unmute to allow for that conversation. But what do you think, panel, is the biggest opportunity you see moving forward for online learning and online education?
Yeah, I think I'll jump in, and I would just kind of amplify what Jeff was saying about it's not either or, it's both and, right? So it'll be interesting to see. I think that both faculty and students found some things that were easier or better for them in the online space. So perhaps we'll see more hybrid courses, and in this, on the student life and student affairs side of things, I think they're going to continue to offer more virtual opportunities in addition to the on campus. So I really think that's how things are going to change, is that there's going to be more flexibility for students, particularly for, here at UNLV, we need to be thinking about that. And actually in all of the NC institutions, right? We've got a really diverse set of students with different competing priorities. And so providing multiple ways to engage with the institutions is going to be important moving forward.
I'll just add that I think we're going to have such great analytics because we're going to be able to leverage these platforms like never before. And again, I think there's just new ways that we're going to be able to engage. So, we know that this week has been very heavy with the verdict and whatnot. And so I just thought about, if we had this, put in place, Dr. Hudson, we could have put a prompt to, instruct every faculty member how to do a check-in. We can't, make it mandatory, but it could have been a tool to say, let's have a conversation, because regardless of, there's just a range of feelings for various communities. So this is how you do a check-in before you get to your chemistry tip, your chemistry material, stop, and then let's just do a check-in. Or you might create a reflection. We could have provided some of those nuggets of opportunities for engagement, and then put in the self-care toolkit kind of resources that students could, reach out. So things like that, I think, are going to happen because we now have the kind of a student module that we're talking about.
Great.
And great point, Dr. Watson. And from my perspective also, I agree with what all my panelists said. And also I would just add to that, I want to emphasize the flexibility that this brings. Every student has unique needs to that student. And through this wave, we're providing students more options. So academic advising, you can meet virtual, through WebEx or Zoom. You can meet via phone. You can come in person. And also we're going to have unique locations around campus. Maybe some satellite locations we can meet with their advisors. So just providing options for the students to meet them where they're at. I think that's incredibly important. And, like Beth said, it's not either or. It's going to be both. And then also, I'm looking for the next wave. I really think, because also one thing we see in the surveys is that students still do value that student life and that vibrant campus component. And I think there's ways that you can utilize online and virtual formats to also help get students on campus or get them mobilized and to participating. And so we're in the process now of brainstorming some ideas to move in that direction. And so, we're really excited for, this kind of hybrid future that we're approaching.
Beth, I do want to pose this question to you. Are there ways, we have many people on this call because they are looking to continue to professionally develop in the student affairs area. What are some of the ways online education can support the student affairs profession and professional?
Yeah, the student affairs, you all offer a lot of co-curricular learning opportunities, right? They're more informal education. That's actually where I do most of my research back in the day when I had time to do research. And so I know there's a lot of learning that goes on there, and it can be put online, right? You've already, many of you in student affairs have already pivoted a lot of the material online, but in working with an instructional designer, getting learning more about how people learn online, and then being able to put your materials online in some format is a great professional development opportunity. You to kind of take it to that. I did not start out as an instructional designer. I was on a project and we had 70,000 people to train. And so we decided, hey, online seems like a good way to do it. And then all of a sudden I became an instructional designer, right? I read some books and had some mentors. So, there's lots of great resources out there. Anybody can become an instructional designer if you're willing to put the time into it.
Great. Thank you for that. Any other comments from the panelists before we open it up for questions?
I think the only thing I'd like to add in terms of needs and where we're going, and I think some of the challenges that we face as higher ed institutions is, the desire for students to have kind of like 24/7 access and immediacy of response and resolution, and some of that's that kind of customer service mentality, which is important for higher ed institutions. When students hit obstacles or don't get their questions answered or can't resolve something, that's that first kind of barrier that leads them to think, oh, maybe higher ed isn't for me, or maybe I need to go to another place. So I think as professionals, we really need to think about how do we create that 24/7 access without kind of burning out all the staff and all the resources that we have, and finding that sweet spot. And I know we've heard it from our faculty, and I'm sure Beth, you've heard it a lot, like, hey, you want me to teach in person, you want me to teach online, you want me to do all these things at the same time. I think we've heard it from student affairs and academic affairs staff also. So I say that knowing that, we have real people behind this 24/7 access. So, I've been kind of thinking about chat bots and AI and kind of some other technology that, some campuses have started to use pretty well to at least create the appearance of 24/7, but still let students know that their questions are in the queue. So just something that I'm thinking about that I think is going to be valuable as we move forward.
Great, thank you. I see a couple of comments in the chat, and feel free to unmute yourself if you have any other comments or questions to ask. At this time, we're done with our formal questions. We have about 10 more minutes to answer questions or just have a discussion.
So I can address, Hank just entered something in the chat about analytics, and yes, we're looking at those analytics. We're actually using some stimulus money to build a dashboard that can be put in, the ideas that we put in courses, particularly first year experience courses, but there's no reason they couldn't be put in co-curricular facilitated experiences as well, on the student affairs side of the house. So the dashboard will pull in self-reported information from students, and also connect that to the behaviors that students are doing in Canvas, in Web Campus, and we'll create a system where a faculty member will get an alert if a student is expressing that they feel like they don't belong, or they feel like their self-efficacy is low. And their behavior is showing that they're late on assignments or they haven't logged in a while. An instructor will get an alert, and in addition to that alert, it won't just tell them, hey, you've got a student that's struggling. It'll say, hey, you've got a student that's struggling, and we suggest you might consider sharing these resources with them. So that's going to be a partnership. Renee, I don't know if I've told you about this project, but we're going to partner with you on it to figure out, what are the combinations of belongingness and, low behavior in a course. What resources do we send for that? Self-efficacy, what resources do we send for that? Because we don't want to fire hose the instructor of like, hey, you've got a student and now pick from all these resources. So we kind of want to be thoughtful about it. But yeah, combining those analytics and then getting that information to instructors or to people who can take action with it is one of the projects we've got going on.
And if I could add, part of our project, Nicole, to remind me, we're going to have a separate link for faculty resources. So I think that's going to really change how we do new faculty orientation, because we'll be able to give them some practical examples of how they can, start on the job of reaching out and connecting with students, and even finding out about their students before the first class day, kind of doing an interview check of, who are they? Do they have a job? Are they out of state, in state? So they can, better survey who's, the student that they have in their classrooms. So I think even separating it out even more so by faculty versus student resources is also going to be a great professional development for our faculty.
That's great. And I see a comment in the chat about MySU and the one-stop shop for resources. There are some great models through ASU, and that is one of them. So again, that is our goal. And yes, absolutely, we think students would benefit. I'm going to screenshot this to help us continue to lobby. So thank you for that. All right, I'm trying to look at any other questions here. Awesome. Thank you, Laurel.
And since we have some people from different NC institutions, I just want to say, if there's anything that you've heard about that you'd like more information on, please feel free to contact me. The system that we're building in Canvas, the iTools system, it's very scalable. We're slowly rolling it out, but the intent behind it is that it's a scalable tool, and so I'd be happy to share more information on that. We're all in NC on the Canvas system now. So I think we could, take the collaborations that we've got at UNLV and make them bigger and start collaborating across institutions. I'd be happy to reach out to me, and we can figure out a way to partner and share our strengths.
Absolutely. One other plug, again, the contact information is on the document and linked for each of the panelists. So if you have any questions from their specific area of expertise, please feel free to reach out. But as Beth said, Beth actually works with a consortium of, unofficial consortium of online leaders at each of the NG institutions. They talk about collaborative opportunities as well as some best practices. And that started, I want to say, after the pandemic, and it's really proven to be helpful to look at resource management. So again, that was an outreach again of Beth to her colleagues to say, how can we do work harder, not smarter? Did I get it wrong? Smarter, not harder. I get confused. You guys know what I mean. It's early. I haven't had my coffee yet. Anyway, any other comments, thoughts, suggestions? Awesome. Well, again, we're a little early, but that gives you a little bit more time between sessions. So thank you for choosing this one. Thank you for just hearing a little bit more about our collaborative opportunities. As you can hear, or as you heard from this presentation, the ideas keep generating. And so there's a lot more work and opportunities we have, but it comes from just having these conversations. The topic was Collaboration Reimagined, Partnering for Online Student Success. I encourage you to just continue to have conversations, get folks around the table, carve out time, because I think that's the best component that we have that we always don't have in our schedule. Carve out time to think differently, and I think all of our institutions will benefit. Have a great day. And again, thank you, panelists, for participating.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate it. If you guys are familiar with Zoom, let's hit them up with some reactions. Let's clap. Let's show them some love. Thank you, attendees, for joining us. A reminder, you're going to need to go back to the Summit website for the link to the next presentation. I am going to go ahead and drop that link in the chat for you right now as well. But thank you, panelists. Thank you, attendees. Your next session will begin promptly at 10:30. So as Nicole mentioned, we did give you a little bit of a time back. So go ahead, use this to take a break, refresh, get that coffee, Nicole. But we are all good here. And thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Awesome. Thank you, Missy.